Good morning, guys. Welcome to our third day of distance learning. Today we are going to start reading Shipwrecked at the Bottom of the World. And so, our objective for today is that students will be able to make observations on the first chapter of Shipwrecked and answer text dependent questions based on the reading. So, I will be reading the first chapter for you guys, as well as guiding you through some pictures from the first chapter and making some notes for you guys. And as I read, you will be taking notes on a notice and wonder chart, as well as afterwards, you will be answering two text dependent questions and two questions in an exit ticket. So make sure that as I read, you do pause to take notes in your notice and wonder chart, and I will give you an example of what that can look like in a bit. So the focusing question for today is, how do Shackleton and his crew respond to the hostile environment of Antarctica? So how does the Captain Shackleton, that we're going to be learning about today, who he is, how does this captain and his crew respond to the hostile environment of Antarctica? So how harsh and cruel the climate of Antarctica is. And so this is the example of the notice and wonder chart that you can have on your notes on paper. So I'm going to ask that you guys have 5 of each. And so when you submit your assignment on Teams, you will be typing up the 5 notice and wonders on the assignment tab. So be sure that you are taking notes as I show you guys the pictures and read the first chapter. You can make any observations on any pictures or text that we read. So this is the first picture that we have in the book. It's titled Shipwrecked at the Bottom of the World, The Extraordinary True Story of Shackleton and the Endurance. So Shackleton being the captain and the Endurance being the ship. And the author of this book is Jennifer Armstrong. And here we can see the Endurance kind of stuck in the ice and it's sinking down. So it's a very powerful first picture. So if you want to go ahead and pause this video in order to make any observations, you can go ahead. Or if you have any questions, go ahead and write them in your wonder chart. But I'm going to go ahead and move on to the second picture. So this picture is the members of the cruise ship of the expedition. So here we have all of the names, Holness, Bakewell, Stevenson, Howe, in order. And then at the bottom it says, members of the expedition during the voyage south. Missing from this photograph are Blackborough, Kerr, McCarthy, McLeod, Ordelise, and Vincent. Daniel Gooch, seated next to Shackleton, left the ship in South Georgia. Alright, so this is just a picture of the members. Again, if you want to pause this recording in order for you to write down any notice or wonders, you can go ahead and do that. So the next picture on the book that we have is just a map of Antarctica. So here we have the South Georgia island right below South America, and then further south we have Antarctica. And then here we have a picture of the Endurance. So we see the different levels there are to the ship, and if you want to stop and make any observations, feel free to do that. But here it gives us a better description of what the ship has. So this is more pictures of the Endurance. So it says, the original plans of Endurance. Built in Norway, the ship was 144 feet long and 25 feet wide. There were 4 decks: the bridge deck, from which the ship was steered, the main deck, containing the saloon and the officers' cabins, the lower deck containing the engine room and crew's quarters, and the hold, where coal, fresh water, and provisions were stored. So here it tells you the 4 decks that the ship has, and then you can kind of see the different levels there were to the ship. So again, pause if you want to make any recordings, but I'm going to go ahead and move on. So this map right here just shows the route that the men took from the South Georgia island to Antarctica in their expedition. So you can see their little trail there. And so that's it for the pictures during the first chapter. And so we're going to go ahead and start reading the first chapter. So it begins by having a quote from an explorer. It says, "For scientific discovery, give me Scott. For speed and efficiency of travel, give me Amundsen. But when disaster strikes and all hope is gone, get down on your knees and pray for Shackleton." Apsley Cherry Gerard, Polar Explorer, 1922. So this quote is from an explorer who expresses how if you are an explorer at this time and you are in need of a good captain for when disaster strikes, that captain would be Shackleton, and he was the captain of the Endurance. So we're going to go ahead and start reading Just Imagine, Chapter 1. So just imagine yourself in the most hostile place on Earth. It's not the Sahara or the Gobi Desert. It's not the Arctic. The most hostile place on Earth is the Antarctic, the location of the South Pole. North Pole, South Pole, what's the difference? The Arctic is mostly water, with ice on top, of course, and that ice is never more than a few feet thick. But under the South Pole lies a continent that supports glaciers up to 2 miles in depth. Almost the entire southern continent is covered by ice. This mammoth ice cap presses down so heavily that it actually distorts the shape of the Earth. The ice never melts. It clings to the bottom of the world, spawning winds, storms, and weather that affects the whole planet. And of all the weather it creates, the weather the Antarctica creates for itself is by far the worst. In the winter, the temperature can sink to 100 degrees below 0 Fahrenheit. Cold air masses sliding down the sides of the glaciers speed up until they become winds of close to 200 miles per hour. When winter descends on the southern continent, the seas surrounding the land begin to freeze at the terrifying rate of 2 square miles every minute, until the frozen sea reaches an area of 7 million square miles, about twice the size of the United States. It is truly the most hostile environment this side of the moon. Just imagine yourself stranded in such a place. In 1915, a British crew of 28 men was stranded there with no ship and no way to contact the outside world. They all survived. So that is chapter 1, Just Imagine. So go ahead and pause this recording so that you can take any notes on your Notice and Wonder chart and any questions that you may have. I am going to go ahead and explain the rest of the assignment. So you're going to have 2 text-dependent questions. So just I'm going to read them for you guys, and you're going to answer them in your assignment. So think back to what hostile means. Why is hostile an appropriate word to describe Antarctica? So think about the fact that hostile means cruel. So in what ways is Antarctica a harsh and cruel environment? Then the second question is, stranded means to be left behind or put into a helpless position. Would you expect the crew of the Endurance to survive after being stranded in Antarctica? Explain your response with text evidence. So using what you just read and the pictures that you saw, you would explain whether you expect the crew to survive after being stranded in Antarctica. Okay, and then for your exit ticket, you would simply record 3 things that you notice about Antarctica's hostile depiction in chapter 1. So state 3 things that you noticed about how Antarctica was described as hostile in chapter 1. And then you're going to explain 1 way in which either a photograph or another text feature like the quote that we saw helped you understand what the crew of the Endurance faced. So you're going to have those 4 questions as well as your Notice and Wonder chart to turn in on your assignments for today, and that's all that you're going to do. If you would like to read the chapter again on your own, feel free to do so, and if you have any questions, go ahead and message me during class time or office hours. Thank you guys. Have a great day.